deal with the people who want to work with you, be in the room with the people that want to be in the room with you, and stop fighting to get at tables that you were never meant to be at, or tables that you were meant to turn over in the first place.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? So, that's really it. And if you do that, your life would be much easier.
Welcome to Mental Shampoo with your host, Kamikaze. Join me as we explore life's big questions, the unique perspectives of intriguing creators and artists. You're ready to unravel the art of living right here on Mental Shampoo. Yo, what's happening, man? It's Kamikaze coming to you all the way live. Your favorite country cousin, your favorite Mississippian, and your best friend. You're tapped into season 3. We appreciate y'all so much for watching this far. Let me tell you, more stuff in the can, more amazing conversations to come. But on today, a very, very special guest. I'm excited. I was just giving him his flowers. You know what I mean? I admire this brother just as a black man. Everything that he's doing within the city of Jackson and abroad. You know what I mean? We're not limited, none whatsoever. But a friend of mine once said that if you want to change the world, change the street that you live on. This brother right here is a prime example of that, man. Brad Franklin, better known as Kamikaze, my brother. It's a blessing.
I appreciate you for having me, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation, man. I'm glad to be here.
In your presence, man. Happy to have you here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. You know, I know you do quite a lot. In the community, man. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I try to stay active, brother. It's the best way to be. But I'm looking forward to the conversation, man.
Yeah,
I really am.
I just got to give it to the people. Right before we got on, we was talking about some fatherhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a new dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have your children.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm able to see the community work. I'm able to see somewhat of your unity with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
I love both of those, and just being able to hear, you tap into more of your fatherhood experience.
Mm-hmm.
That was great too, because I look to be a great father. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to meeting my wife, I look to be a great husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been doing community work for quite some time, and I'm always looking to be better in that aspect.
Yeah.
And today I want to touch on all 3 of those, if that's all right with you.
Cool. Let's do that.
Let's do it, man. So again, Brad Franklin, better known as Kamikaze, right here, Mental Shampoo Season 3. So from Jackson.
Yeah. Born and raised.
Have you ever lived anywhere else?
I lived briefly in Atlanta, and I lived briefly in New York, when I was out, and we were heavily into music right after David Banner and I got signed, went to some other places, lived in other places. I lived in Atlanta actually for about a year. One of the first jobs I had after leaving Jackson State is I was working for the Associated Press, actually. So I moved to Atlanta in 96.
Okay.
To work for AP, and I was actually covering the 96 Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Right out of college. So, mass comm degree from Jackson State University. And I put it to use. I was working for AP. At the time, it was probably, the percentage of black males in the Associated Press, roster was about 3%. Wasn't a whole lot of us at the time. And I had a black bureau chief by the name of Robert Naylor that worked here in Jackson that I worked for. And he was like, they're looking for some writers in Atlanta. The Olympics is coming. They need a crack staff. They're going to be going to 24 hours. You're really good with what you're doing. We want to try to get you into this position. So I ended up moving to Atlanta. My oldest daughter was, she was an arm baby at the time. And I left and moved to Atlanta, moved in with my cousin who was staying in Tucker, Georgia at the time. I was going to work every day in the CNN building. I was getting on the elevator a lot of mornings with Jane Fonda and Ted Turner because they actually lived in the CNN building upstairs at the top of the building. So I was getting on the elevator with them every day. I was a big wrestling fan, so I was in that building and in the lobby of that building on some days when I'd be eating lunch, Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and Sting and all these folks would be coming through the lobby because the WCW NWA offices were in the CNN building too because Ted Turner had just purchased it. So I was looking at this every day, and then I was going up and getting to this desk in this cubicle, and I was, writing for the Olympics and writing on what was happening in the Olympics every day, going to the baseball games, going to the events that were happening. And then at the same time, this is right before me and David Banner got signed, actually, so I was using it as a twofold mission because I was in Atlanta and there was a lot of music happening in Atlanta at the time. 96 was kind of like, for people that are familiar with Atlanta's growth, '96 was the turning point for that city because the Olympics brought a lot of people into that city. If you're watching BMF now and they're talking about Techwood, remember in those times, Techwood was demolished and torn down. The city made a concerted effort to try to push a particular quote unquote element, black folks, out of that part of the city. Techwood was located very close to where the Olympic Park was taking place. So they were trying to gentrify the city enough to make it presentable, since the entire world was coming to Atlanta at the time. And I was in Atlanta in '96, and I was watching all this happen, and I was watching the music happen. I was watching Outkast and the Dungeon Family. I was watching all of this stuff happen at the time. And, that was one of the first places that we got our first, bites from labels, as Crooked Lettaz to get, a record deal. And I ended up coming back to the crib, to get with Banner so that we could work on the music. And, the rest, as they say, is history. But, I've lived in Atlanta and New York from some very short stints. Didn't like it. It was too big. It was too expansive. The people were not as hospitable as they were in Mississippi. And, for me.
In Atlanta or New York?
In both places.
Oh, okay.
In both places. For me, people have talked about the brain drain in Mississippi so much. We lose the best and the brightest of our folk to other cities and other states, and they go to these other states and they thrive and they take all of their great ideas and all of their talent and their skill, and they make other places flourish. The only way that Mississippi is going to be able to level up in that sense is if some of us with that same skill and desire and that passion are deliberate about staying here and making it happen. I wanted to be deliberate about staying here. I'm just really big on these folks are not any smarter, they're not any better, they're not any faster, they're not even any more business savvy than we are. For us, I think it's just us really kind of planting our feet down and being deliberate about saying that, we are as good and we are as worthy as other people. So I felt like, if not me, then who? I've always had that thought process my entire life. If somebody's going to come back and stay, if somebody's going to come back and fight the good fight, I'm going to be one of those people that do that. And I want to come back home and I want to make Mississippi, particularly Jackson, the same as all of these other places, because all of those good ideas that I could have taken and given to those folks, there's already people there doing that.
Thanks.
So I would rather stay here and find out who's willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with me here to make this happen. And I've been here ever since, fighting that good fight. And ever since then, there have been people who have decided to plant their roots here and fight the good fight. And that's what it's going to take for us to be able to get to the next level. So that's how I ended up back here after leaving Atlanta at that time. That's how I ended up back here having that little short stint. But other than that, I've been born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. You know what I'm saying?
Man, so you just unpacked a lot there, bro. Were there ever discouraging moments? You know what I mean? You saying fight the good fight, make Jackson, being deliberate about making Jackson a great place for other people to thrive in. Were there ever discouraging moments, and what actually kept you going for real?
There are discouraging moments every day. I mean, at the time, one of the biggest conflicts I had was with my father. My father was retired military. He worked for the state for 40 years. He was one of those people that I saw go to work every day. Unless he was physically unable to go to work, he went to work. He understood, a day's pay for a day's work. He believed that you should get up and you should go to work and you should work a particular type of job, and this is what you need to do. When I decided to do music and I took an alternate path, he didn't really understand that. So when I left the Associated Press to come back here to work on music and to work on Crooked Lettaz, it created a rift because he did not understand the concept of me leaving that quote unquote good job. You left this good job, and I got all of these folks that I work with, and he was working at the state at the time, and he was working with white folks whose kids had gone to Ole Miss, and they were lawyers and they were doctors and all this kind of thing. And that perception. So, I got to go to work and tell them that my son wants to be a rapper. And, I'd graduated from honors from Jackson State University. I was in the honors college while I was there. I was there on a full academic scholarship, made a 25 on the ACT. I did my work to get to where I needed to get to, but I got bit by the music bug and I wanted to do music. And he did not understand that concept. He didn't understand pursuing music. He did not understand the concept of not wanting to go to a job every day and get those benefits and get that retirement. He didn't understand the concept. So starting there is where the challenges start. If you fast forward to now, the cynicism that still exists every day, I have to fight the urge every day to respond to people online and on social media who have something negative to say about Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
There's so much positive that's here, and I choose to lean to that, and I choose to push that narrative. You can be negative about anything. There are negative and bad spaces in any city that you go to.
Sure.
Jackson, Mississippi is not unlike any other city that exists there, but we are a gem here. We are at the crossroads of the South. We are located in the birthplace of America's music. This is the blackest state in the Union. Mm-hmm. We have a city as the highest percentage of black people, I think, of any other city that exists in this nation. We have people who are in leadership that look like me and you. Mm-hmm. And that does not exist for a lot of black folk in a lot of different places. So I start there with the good, but every day is a challenge because, A, you have people who don't believe what you believe. Mm-hmm. You have people who don't believe in themselves. You have people who have grown up in a state where you're almost taught innately to have an inferiority complex. So you're dealing with people every day who don't believe in the goodness of themselves and the goodness and the history of this state and its people. And then, the work that you put in and the sacrifices that you make, and me and myself and my bride make a lot of sacrifices just to do things because we just feel compelled to do them and we're passionate about doing them. Not that we're getting paid to do them, not that we have to do them, but we do them because it's what we are compelled to do. Then there's a level of not feeling appreciated. There's a level of, not feeling like, people are on your side, or not feeling like people are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with you and fight that good fight. So, there's that. And then there's, of course, the thief of joy comparison when you're looking at what other people are doing in the spaces that you are doing. And you have to deal with that every day. So it's a struggle and it's a fight every day to deal with that negative perception, to deal with what you see other people doing because you're inundated with social media, and you have to stay grounded enough and you have to stay focused enough to not let the outside noise get to you and just stay on the path. So I choose to try to stay as focused as I possibly can because my goal is simply to leave Jackson and Mississippi as a whole better than when I found it.
Yes, sir.
And in order for me to do that, I've still got a ways to go. I've got miles to go before I sleep, as they say. So, in that token, whoever is willing to join with me and stand shoulder to shoulder with me, we can do that. But, there's something every day, Kamar. I mean, it's absolutely something every day. You're going to read it, you're going to hear that's going to discourage you or make you want to respond to other people and get into the muck and the mire of going back and forth with people. But outside of that, man, I just keep it focused, positive, keep it moving. Yeah.
I want to tap into, you say you was bit by the music bug. Mm-hmm. What was it about music that made you say, I can do this?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. It was girls. Yeah. Actually, I mean, I could say something profound, but when I was in I was in high school and I started out as a beatboxer. That was my thing. Mm-hmm. I was a beatbox guy, and the attention that you got from that, I liked it. Mm-hmm. So let's go with that and let's see what happens with it. So I tell the story all the time. I was in the 11th grade, and I was a really good beatbox guy. And there was another guy by the name of Tim Lampkin. We were at St. Joe, on when St. Joe was on Bowling Street here in Jackson. Mm-hmm. Tim Lampkin is my football homie. He was real good at beatboxing. I was good at beatboxing. So one day we decided to have a beatbox battle. Mm-hmm. And the stipulations of this beatbox battle, Kamar, was the person that loses the beatbox battle cannot beatbox anymore at this school forever.
Interesting.
Can't beatbox again. When you lose this beatbox battle, that's it for you. It's a wrap. And I'm going to tell you, we were dead serious. It wasn't one of those things where, I lost and then, I'm going to beatbox in another week or so and it's going to be one of those things like, that's it. It's going to be over with. It was one of them wrestling stipulations. It was a loser, leave town type of thing. And I lost. I lost the beatbox battle. We had the beatbox battle in, outside in front of everybody after school. And, he mopped the floor with me. And that is what thrust me into being an MC.
Okay.
And it was actually that's actually what was probably meant to happen, because that is what put me on the road to me being an MC, was me getting beat in that beatbox battle. And then the next day, I started sharpening up my lyrics at that point. So it kind of thrust me into, well, you can't do this anymore. So now I'm going to have to be the guy that raps over the beatbox now. So now I got to get that together. The chicks like it. I liked it that the chicks like it. So this is what we're going to go with. We're going to keep it rolling. And I didn't realize that it could be a career until I graduated Jackson State. You know, when I walked across the stage and I got my diploma. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I realized at that point that, you know, I think I can do this full time. I think I'm really good at this. And then that's when it kind of morphed into, I'm going to pursue this as a career. We're going to put these demos together. We're going to send them out and we're going to do this whole thing. But it started off like anything. I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to tell you anything any different. You know, we got attention from chicks. And that's what I was all about. And if this is what you like, this is what I'm going to do until we get there. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was.
That's a hell of a bet, man. Mm-hmm. So after Jackson State, you realized you could make this a career. Mm-hmm. So where does Banner fall into play, and what does their relationship look like now?
So Banner was, we were having a cypher backstage at an AMG concert. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you know, there was a time in Jackson where, you know, the West Coast and the Bay Area artists were really big. AMG, DJ Quick, Sally Cell, E40, all those cats. And they used to come here and do shows a whole lot. So there was a show at
for real? E40, Quick, all of them?
E40, the whole E40, Be Legit, the whole clique, AMG, Sally Cell, Sibo, Rapping Forte, all those cats used to come to Jackson often.
Yeah.
We was huge. E40 and the clique was like, you know, and E40 was going to school at Grambling at the time. That's how he actually, his music kind of seeped over here. So that turned into a connection that we had here with the promoters, and they were bringing all these cats in here. And DJ Quick and, you know, AMG had, you know, Trick Better Have My Money and that whole thing. Mm-hmm. So we were backstage at the National Guard Armory at the fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. Nobody does anything in this building, but we were there at this show. And it was me and the rest of my crew, and we were kind of freestyling backstage because that's what we did at the time. We would just stop and freestyle anywhere. We was ready to battle anybody at any time. We was ready to freestyle at any time. So this really scruffy dude that just looked like he had just came off the street from somewhere, just came walking up in the cypher.
Yeah.
And he started rapping.
Okay.
He got done rapping. He was like, oh, you dope. And he was like, my name is MC Vale. And we was like, you know what? You finna be in our crew. So we adopted Banner into our crew, the Stew Pie Stowaways, which is the crew that we had at Jackson State University that had a lot of different cats in it. And we started doing music together. We were like a southern version of Wu-Tang. We was in Rap Pages and in Vibe and in The Source. We was in a whole bunch of magazines at the time. So, you know, before the blogs and social media became a thing, being in the magazines was how people got to know who you were. Source, Vibe, Beatdown, 4080, all of those things. So one day Banner came to me and he said, you know what? You know, you dope and I'm dope, because between me and him, it was always a challenge to see who was going to have the best verse on the posse cuts that we do, on the crew records. So he was like, you dope, I'm dope. We doing these records together. We should form a group.
Yeah.
And we're going to call this group Crooked Lettaz. And he said, we're going to call it Crooked Lettaz because whenever you say our name, you'll be saying Mississippi. And the most important thing about it is we want to put the name Mississippi in everybody's mouth. So if we can't get them to say Mississippi, we're going to call ourselves Crooked Lettaz. And every time they say that, they're going to be saying Mississippi. So that's how the name came about. So Banner named us. He named us Crooked Lettaz. We went and recorded our first demo in December of 96. It was during an ice storm, as a matter of fact. I'll never forget it. We went to Freddie Young's studio. Rest in peace to Freddie Young. Went to Freddie Young's studio. We recorded the demo. In December of 95, and in June of 96, we were in Unsigned Hype in The Source at that time, and then we started having labels to call us. That's when I ended up moving to Atlanta for a second, had labels really kind of starting to pursue us from there, and, you know, the rest, as they say, is history. We continued to go back and forth with labels, and we ended up going with Penalty and Tommy Boy at the time. We were on the same label with Noriega. We were on the same label. Tommy Boy had Naughty by Nature, had Queen Latifah on it, MC Breed, you know what I'm saying, the DFC. It was a whole bunch of people that was on Tommy Boy at the time, man. Yeah. So, you know, we were in good company. at the time, man. So we dropped our record, and it just kind of went from there, man. Like it just started off from a cipher with Banner jumping in the cipher, and it kind of just morphed. And the more we evolved, the more we saw that we could really do this as a profession, and we could really make it in Mississippi and make it from Mississippi. And we did. And, the perception that everybody says, A&Rs used to tell us all the time after we got signed, it was like, man, when we saw packages that had Mississippi postmarks on them, we just threw them in the trash. We didn't listen to them. And you go in these A&R offices at the time and you look in these bins that they used to have next to their desk, and they'd be, it'd be packages up a mile high.
Okay.
So these were the ones that they kept. But it was like most of the time, if we got something from Mississippi, we just tossed that shit in the trash because it's from Mississippi, and these were New York labels at the time. It wasn't the way it is now where labels permeate everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a Suave House and all of the, the Atlanta labels that popped up. That wasn't existing at the time. New York was the mecca. New York is where you had to go and prove your mettle. And that's what we had to do. But at the same time, they weren't really looking to or even amenable to accepting MCs from any other part of the country outside of New York.
Yeah.
So we had to prove ourselves in a whole bunch of different, facets to them that, we belonged at the time. And this was, this is kind of around the time, Outkast is beginning to bubble. Dungeon Family is beginning to bubble. Ghetto Boys is beginning to bubble a little bit. So this is around those times, and it was really a proving ground for Southern MCs at that time. So, it was a renaissance period, so to speak. So, like I said, the rest, as they say, is history, man. It was amazing to just travel the world at that point, and to be able to see the country and the world doing music, and I'm blessed to have had that time. And I tell everybody that, those were the years, the formative years that kind of thrust me into doing other things. I started actually getting into a lot of the activism and a lot of the, stuff that I was doing in the community because people were calling Kamikaze to come and speak to their kids and speak to their class because they were fans of mine.
Okay. And
that allowed me to get into those spaces to actually start affecting some change.
Yes.
And that for me, I think, I tell people a lot of times that music was a conduit and a vehicle for me to get into the other stuff that I'm doing, even though I still love music. But I feel like that was just God's way of being able to slide me into some of those rooms that I probably wouldn't have been able to get to.
I was gonna ask about that. Like, do you miss like making music at all? And do you ever get the bug to get back on the road type deal?
I don't miss being on the road.
Okay.
But I miss at times making music regularly. I definitely miss at times, the art of sitting down and putting lyrics together. Now, as we speak now at this moment, I've actually jumped in and done a few guest appearances here and there on a few records. Shouts out to Kenyon. I went on the Bars of None show and dropped a little freestyle over there, dropped some bars over there. Shout out to my man Measy, Lil Maul. Shout out to the Thanksgiving crew, the Coke and Savvy and Gutter Boy and Tricky and all of those guys. We got a few records under our belt that we've done here recently. I got kind of pushed back into it by Measy. Shout out to Measy, doing the movies, doing the music, doing crosses, double crosses, the whole thing. So, he's somebody that I've been cool with for a long time, and he was a fan of my music, and I was kind of mentoring him, and he kind of just, every time I show up to kind of just help, and I was really just coming to consult him and kind of help him kind of get organized business-wise, and every time I show up, he would just start, thrusting me like, hey, jump in here and put a little something on this and put a little something on this. And then next thing you know, I'm writing full verses again and I'm in the studio doing stuff. And I think before it's all said and done, I think I'll probably do one more project before it's, all, over with. Because I don't want to get to a point in my life where I have the regret of saying I should have done one more project,
man.
Or I should have done one more song, or I should have done one of this. You know what I'm saying? Regrets is.
Look at what Killer Mike did with the album Michael.
Yeah,
That's a phenomenal body of work.
It was the best album that came out
Shit.
this past year, period, bar none.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody has to say. That was
Agreed.
an amazing body of work. And it actually is funny because Killer Mike is somebody that we did music with as Crooked Lettaz coming up.
Okay.
He's a friend of ours. And, watching him at 48 do what he was doing, I have to say that was one of the reasons why, I was able to get past my imposter syndrome and be able to say,
Word.
I can do this
Okay.
again because he's doing this at 48.
Okay.
He's not that much younger than I am. We're still kind of in the same age bracket. So if he can do it and he could put out, because my thing was always, if I can't put out a body of work that matches the best that I have done, and it's not up to my particular standard, I don't want to be one of those, old dudes who's coming in, just barely making it, kind of doing it. I want to be able to perform at a high level, and I want to be able to perform at the level that I'm used to performing at. I consider myself to be one of the greatest MCs that these 82 counties has ever produced. And I stand on that. And I want to be able to say that if I put out another body of work, I want to be able to maintain that level. I don't want them to say that I've lost a step. I don't want to say that I'll drop back. If I can't do it at the level that I did it before and have people react the same way that I did before, then I don't want to do it. But the same pressure that existed before is not there because I wouldn't be doing it because, I got to go out here and feed the family, or I got to do this and I got to do that. I can do it purely for what I began doing it in the first place for, and that was just for the art of it.
Yeah.
And the fun of it. And now there's no pressure for me to have hit records. Now I can go in and I can make the records that I want to make. I can talk about what I want to talk about, and then we'll just see how it goes from there. You know what I'm saying? So, and I have encouraged everybody that's in my age bracket that has done music before that if you really want to do this, then just do it.
Just do it.
Don't listen to the young people who say that, you shouldn't be rapping past a certain age, man. Hip hop is not a young man's sport. It's a sport for people who are dope. And if you are dope and you are able to put good bodies of work together, you should still be able to do it. And you should still be able to find your audience and find those people that are going to resonate, because there's a lot of people who live in the sphere where I live and do the things that I do. And I can speak to those people. I'm not trying to speak to my grown kids or even my youngest daughter's age bracket. I'm not trying to speak to them. You know what I'm saying? I can't relate to what you're doing. So I think the thing sometimes that happens is that people think that you have to try to reach the demographic that exists now and the generation that exists now. But, hip hop being 50 years old, there are people in their 50s and their 60s that still want to listen to music, and they still want to jam, and they still want to listen to people who have the same experiences that they have. They can't relate to what somebody 25 years old is relating to, but they can relate to what somebody 50 years old is saying to them. So you make music for those people, and at the end of the day, it'll reach who it needs to reach.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So would you see yourself like doing another Crooked Lettaz album?
Me and Banner talked. We just recently had the 25th anniversary of Gray Skies. The album was 25 years old. And, we had a conversation, and we just talked about our impact. We always talked about, the album might not have commercially done what we wanted it to do, but the impact that we both see that it has on people who come to us all the time and says, I grew up on this record. You guys inspired me. One guy commented under my post and said, I begged my mother to buy me this record.
Word.
You know what I'm saying, when they were in school. And when you see people say those type things, you understand the impact that you have and the current ecosystem that exists for creatives in Mississippi. Crooked Lettaz helped to lay the foundation for that. If it was not for some of the sacrifices that we made, things would not be where they are right now. So that impact alone for me is what's important. Commercially viable, no, but social impact that we had on Black boys and Black girls in Mississippi that looked up to us and say, I see somebody that's from where I'm from, that's from where I'm from, and they were able to do this. That to me means more than anything in the world, because my daughter can look at me, and when people say you got to leave Mississippi to do X, Y, Z, or young people that I talk to, and they say, I heard that you have to leave Mississippi to do X, Y, Z, I can say to them, no, you don't, because this is what we did here. Or when I was managing Dear Silas, we were able to get Dear Silas a deal, and we did that from here. You don't have to come here. If you're good enough, they will come to you. And that's always been my mantra, and that's what I try to impart on everybody else, that if you are good enough, the world will come to you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. I love that. Jackson hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe or define Jackson hip hop today? I'm from Natchez. I
Mm-hmm.
graduated high school in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joker and Maul was
Mm-hmm.
like the two guys that was on fire from the
Absolutely.
city at that time.
Absolutely.
And so just seeing the transition from that era to now, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How would you define or describe Jackson's hip hop?
This is probably the most talented generation of artists that we have had ever.
Shit. Okay.
They're way better than my generation. Way more focused than my generation, and way more original, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get inundated with a lot of stuff. You know, when I first started, and I consider myself to be first generation hip hop in Jackson, you could count the number of people who were really seriously doing music on one hand. People literally considered it to be a fad. They literally said that you guys are just copying what you see people from New York are doing. This honestly happened. And it's gonna, eventually it's gonna fizzle out.
Yeah.
And that's what we was hearing from people in the street. We was hearing it from DJs. We was hearing it from radio personalities who told us we'll never play hip hop on our radio stations here. The cats, that was selling dope, all the dope boys, all the robbers, all the jackers. Everybody was like, y'all will be back over here with us soon because that's a fad that's gonna fizzle out. And you fast forward 10 years, all those same dope boys, all those same robbers, and all those same jackers are in the studio trying to make rap records.
Mm-hmm.
And you figure out that the art form was here to stay. And, at that time, it was, again, it was very select and very few people that are doing it. Now everyone has access to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And you have a very talented group of people who are doing it. You still got, folks that are whack as hell. You still have those folks. And those numbers have grown exponentially. But you also... You also have the talented people now who are getting their opportunity, and because now you can record in your closet, because you can put your music together anywhere, because you are able to push a button and get your product out to everybody out right now. Because of that, we are discovering all of those unearthed gems that we did not know existed. Mm-hmm. And this is the most talented generation of artists that I have seen, and it's only a matter of time before the world actually finds out about it en masse. Mississippi, I think as a whole, has not had its moment yet. We've had spurts. Yeah. We've had moments. There was Wildlife Society getting their deal. They were the first group to get a deal. That was that moment. Okay. Then there was the Crooked Lettaz moment. That was there. And then right after that was Banner's moment. That was there. And then we had a drought for a long time. And then you had Dear Silas to come in. Have never been able to tie people together. There's never been an influx of people. There's never been 5 or 6 people at a time that you could say from Mississippi.
Why do you think
that
that is, though? Popping. Why do you think that is? Because you look at, when you said that, I thought about the Wu-Tangs. I thought mm-hmm. about the Dungeon Families.
Mm-hmm.
These group of individuals having
mm-hmm.
a common goal. Like RZA had the vision.
mm-hmm.
Rico Wade had the vision, so
mm-hmm.
on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there such a big spurt within that?
For one, it's the technology that existed. Mm-hmm. Because between Banner and Dear Silas, technology completely evolved and it changed.
It's a hell of a long period.
It's a hell of a long period of time. Yeah. So, and I'm talking about, these are people, in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, there's only been 4 major deals that have happened with major labels, not independent labels, not people that started their own thing.
Yeah.
There's only been 4 acts from Jackson, Mississippi that have signed major record deals with major labels. And that was Wildlife Society, there was Crooked Lettaz, there was David Banner, and then there was Dear Silas. Those are the people that signed major deals at the time. Those things did not connect and they were not together. In that period with Wildlife and Crooked Lettaz, and even beginning with David Banner, social media was in its infancy. So it was very difficult at that time to get things to connect like they needed to. And because there was spaces in between, and I tell people this all the time, we failed because we had a Highlander mentality. I think for people that, have watched the Highlander movies, there can only be one. We had a there can only be one type of mentality. So if I'm doing what I'm doing right now at this point, I can't really support what you're doing. You know, we had people who used to tell us all the time, if I'm a fan of Crooked Lettaz, I can't be a fan of Queen Boys. And if I'm a fan of Boo, I can't be a fan of Reese and Bigelow. If I'm a fan of David Banner, I can't be a fan of this guy or that guy. People used to tell us that all the time. There was a tribalism that existed that held us down.
Mm-hmm.
In this day and age, that mindset, although I'm sure it exists in some spaces, that mindset does not exist. I see people working together more freely now. I see people working together more frequently now. I see people, merging ideas. I see people willing to come together, and I see people understanding that there's enough space and time and money out here for all of us to be able to make it. The younger folks are getting it figured out. Even as I watch what's happening with the comedians now, with what Rita is doing with the workout room and how she has got the comedians working together. They've got it figured out.
Yeah.
Rising tide floats all boats. So when people have figured out that dynamic, it makes things easier. When the Thanksgiving album came out, when, Luck and Savvy and Tricky and Coke, put that record together.
Solid body of work.
A very solid body of work. People saw that, okay, this can actually happen. You can actually do that. All of these people have their own thing going on, but they're not operating in a silo. They came together under this umbrella, and this is actually working for them. And it's actually going to work to the point where, again, it's going to lift all of them up individually. So now people are understanding that if we do this, this can help us to get to our point faster. So Maul has gotten together and got a lot of us together, gotten us in studio, and we have recorded songs together with a lot of different people, with a lot of different ideas, a lot of different producers, a lot of different folks. And it's working to our betterment because now, again, it's our collective effort. We are more powerful together. We are stronger together. And people that saying that, we are greater than the sum of our parts if we do that. And I think that's what's going to work in Mississippi's favor ultimately, because now people are like, hey, it doesn't really matter. Let's go in here and let's do some records. Let's go in here and create. Let's go in here and record. Let's go in here and put these songs together. Let's go ahead and shoot this movie. Let's go ahead and do this. Whoever's coming, come on. Because if it works, it'll work for all of us at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter who's first. It doesn't matter who's second. It doesn't matter who did this and who did that.
Yep.
This is going to collectively help all of us, because if people like it and if people gravitate to it, they're going to see all of us. And then it helps all of us individually. We didn't have that mindset back then because it was kind of like a dog-eat-dog thing. We talk about this all the time. We made a lot of mistakes. We didn't pave the way for the younger generation like we needed to. We didn't prepare the younger generation like we needed to. We were not mentors for them like we needed to. We dropped the ball in a lot of instances, and a lot of OGs that you talk to will tell you that. So a lot of times these kids that you see kind of just moving by the seat of their pants around here now, it's because there was nobody there to kind of tell them what to do and how to do it and how to move. Because when we were doing it, there was nobody here to tell us how to do it and how to move it, because we were the first generation of folks here that were really trying to do it. So there was nobody here to tell us how to navigate it. We had to figure this out on our own. And in us figuring out, then we took that knowledge and we were like, we covered up our test paper. We hoarded it. And instead of disseminating it, we kept it close to the vest. And then that created a sense of animosity for those that came behind us, because they felt like we were not being as forthcoming with the knowledge as we should have been. And they're correct in a lot of instances. And, we're all working to try to mend those fences and get it here. But, to answer your question, this is the most talented generation of artists that Jackson, Mississippi has ever had. So for me, it's only a matter of time, and it's going to happen from here, and it's not going to happen from somebody leaving here and going in other places. It's going to happen right here. This is the birthplace of America's music. So it's destined to happen that way.
It's written in the stars. Mississippi definitely has something to say. I think you already answered within what you just said too, but I was going to ask you, because you talked about a point. I was going to ask, like, what point do you think Mississippi has to prove in terms of artistry? But then we can segue into, what does the arts do for a community, for the neighborhoods, for the government?
So one of the things that I have had to try to prove, because I'm one of those people who has been able to navigate between, I call it the streets and the corporate suites.
Okay.
I'm one of the people that has been able to navigate that road.
Thugging before corporate
thugging before corporate thugging. So I was able to be that hip hop artist and that rapper who was able to get an audience with the mayor and get an audience with city council people and get the audience with, state representatives and get the audience with business people. I was able to figure out how to navigate that dynamic. So as that existed, my goal was to try to prove to these folks over here that held the purse strings, that created the laws, to try to tell them that the creative community can be an economic driver for your city. That's what we had to prove to them. We had to prove that to them with Jackson Indie Music Week. We had to prove that to them with the music. The creative community that exists in Jackson can bring you revenue into this city. People can come into this city to see people do their poetry, their music, to come to see their visual art, to come and taste the cuisine. This creative community that exists is going to bring people in this city, and they're going to spend money in restaurants. They're going to spend money at retail. They're going to spend money at hotels. This is what we go to visit Jackson. This is what we go to visit Mississippi, and we tell these folks that this creative community is an economic driver. And you contributing to this in a means of helping to support this foundation is going to support your bottom line at the end of the day. You're a legislature, you're a senator, a representative, you're at the Capitol here, you're making these laws that are amenable to the creative community, that are amenable to movies that are shooting here, that are amenable to music events and festivals that take place here, removing some of that red tape. You're actually putting yourself in a position to be able to make money that's going to in turn satisfy your constituents, that is going to in turn make them happy to keep you in office because you're keeping that stream of money rolling.
You talking spicy, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So all of that connects, but you have to have the people in the room that can help to make those things connect, because those people over here, they don't know anything about doing music or what happens. They just know from what they've seen. The unfortunate thing is a lot of times the people in the creative community don't want to know or don't know anything about how business works. So those two things have to connect. You know what I'm saying? So we have to, in order to have the conversations, because creators always need money to make what they're doing work. But the people that have the money and have the purse strings, you got to be able to go and you got to be able to talk in a language that they can understand, because all they understand is bottom line and numbers and data. That's the world that we live in. So you have to have somebody that can translate those two things to be able to say, this is what exists here. This is how this works. And this is why you should give us the money. Not just because we're cool and we're doing art. We're doing this because this is going to make you some money. That's the conversation that is going to make them say, okay, now we're going to put these laws in place. We're going to make it so that we can give tax breaks to these movie theaters, to these producers that want to come here and shoot movies. And that's why the movie, industry here has begun to thrive, because we realize, now 50 Cent has just moved. He moved all his studios into Shreveport, Louisiana. And you realize that now, when you are amenable and you are accepting of your creative community, this is something that can make you money. So my job has been to kind of try to figure out how to navigate those two things to make that work, because in order for you to be a creative and get what you need to do, everything costs money these days.
Yes.
And you can't just appeal. You can come to me because I'm a creative, but I'm also a businessman, but I'm a creative first. You can appeal to me from a creative sense. That works for me. But for a person that has the money that you need to be able to do what you need to do, and everything costs money these days, you got to be able to appeal to their sense of business and be able to say, this is how this works. And it does work. You just have to figure out how to put those two things into effect. So that's what I've been doing over the years, is trying to connect those two things, because we have never lacked talent. We've never lacked passion or drive. What we've lacked is business sense. What we've lacked is knowledge. What we've lacked is access to those rooms and that knowledge. That's the only thing that we've lacked. So once we get the smart people like you and get the smart people like, the Sip Talk folks and the smart people like Miranda, you get all these smart people that are around here in this world, the people that have the podcast. Once you get those smart people in the rooms with those people, and they're armed with the knowledge and the business sense to be able to say, this is how this works and it's going to be X, Y, Z, then that's when the money starts to connect. And then that's what makes this side over here, the creative side, flourish. And that's what makes it available for the other creative people who are young, who are coming up. That's what makes it so that we can put events together where if you're an artist now, you can get paid. I didn't come up getting paid to do shows at all. It wasn't something that, was just a part of the process for me. So now we can do things where we can have a stipend to be able to pay you to do this. We can do things now to where we can pay you to be an artist in residence at this school. You can be a chef in residence. We can do things that can have you to do this workshop or come over here and speak to this group of kids. We can do these things to make sure that creators are able to pay their bills, which is something that has not happened traditionally. You know what I'm saying? It's the original thing that my father was so pissed off at me about, because he did not understand this thing that you're doing. I don't understand how you're going to take care of yourself and my grandkids. I don't understand how you're going to make this work.
Mhm.
So this is how you make that work.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You said about creatives not necessarily knowing in some aspects, and then some of them not wanting to know for real, or learn about the business, the data, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
On this portion of it, why do you think some creatives don't want to learn about the data and the numbers and the bottom line?
Because it's hard.
It is boring.
It's hard. It's boring.
But it's necessary.
It's hard and it's boring, and it's also kind of like it's a soulless endeavor.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people feel empty inside when they have to start talking business.
But it's no longer a fun thing to do.
It's no longer a fun thing to do.
Nah, it's really work now.
But if you want to be able to continue and to do it and have it to thrive, at some point, you're going to have to pay attention to that. Like some folks, I just want to be able to just make my art and just let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
And that's cool. If you don't have kids, if you don't have rent,
Yeah.
if you don't have the vehicle that you need to get to and fro, all of this is great. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Honestly, all of this is great. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to live and eat and sustain themselves, especially if you have families and kids and things, and you want to be able to try to provide for them long term in life. That was the thing I had to learn as a father, and we were talking about that earlier. Like, then I was not thinking about, health insurance and 401k,
Yeah, man.
and college fund, and a teenager that wants to get her hair braided and hair costs $300 to get it done. Or you get a kid that's a sneakerhead like you, and she wants, all of the retros. She wants all of the dunks. She wants all of that. You know what I'm saying? And this is my youngest, but just in between, just school, dental, doctor bills, transportation from activities, a roof over your head, plumbing, water heater, air conditioner, all those all of that. Life happens. Creatives have to understand that life happens. So, and I think this generation of creatives gets it way more than we did, because I didn't really think about those things. But I talk to people now, and I talk to kids now who, they got families, they got kids. I got to make this make sense. You know what I'm saying? Is this gig paying? Well, if it's not, then how can this do X, Y, Z to get me to the point where, this can have some type of residual return on my investment, and being able to do that. So, when you start talking about all those things, it gets a little murky. It gets a little boring. It gets a little, it gets a little intense too at the same time. And that can take people out of their creative sphere. But it's something that you have to talk about. And if you're not talking about it yourself, get you someone on your team who can take care of that and handle it. You don't have to necessarily handle it yourself, but make sure that you have someone who can take care of that for you and make that handle. Because at the end of the day, we've seen too many instances where people have been great at what they have done.
Come on, man.
And then at the end of the day, the money did not connect any longer. And that's something that I don't want to see happen. Me and Banner got robbed of 6 figures from a bad manager. We had some very bad business dealings that we had to deal with. So, one of my goals has been to make sure that that does not happen to anybody else ever that I can help. So anytime I try to impart that knowledge, or I see people, I try to impart that knowledge on them, because, we've seen too many instances of people from our generation who had hit records, did this, that, and the other. And then you look down here on this end, and then they're not doing well financially because they didn't take care of business here, because they didn't have someone to help to guide them to the next level. So I just want to make sure that, if nothing else, when people run into artists from Mississippi, I want them to be able to say, man, those Mississippi artists, they are some of the most in tune with their business of any of the artists that I have run into ever. Those Mississippi folks, you're not going to get over on them. The Mississippi artists, you're not going to take them fast. The Mississippi artists, they're going to be on top of their business. So my goal has been to try to impart that to as many people as I can, so that the reputation of Mississippi artists, when we go into those boardrooms, is you're not going to be able to take these folks fast because they're going to be on top of their shit. And we're not going to get everybody in the same net, but at least I want the percentage of people that go into those boardrooms prepared for what the conversation is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I want that percentage to increase. So whatever part I can do in that is what I'm going to try to do.
Man, I love that, brother. I want to kind of go back to like, if you're not that person, make sure somebody is in your circle that can do whatever the case may need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation not too long ago, and we were talking about how important it is to have a variety of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody you hang around shouldn't be exactly like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the older we get, the more we realize that.
Absolutely.
Like, have somebody that's into numbers, have somebody that's into, money, have somebody that's into creative, whatever the case, have somebody into logistics, like all of these, because everybody uses everybody.
Yeah.
But it's like, are you using it for the greater good type deal?
Yeah. I mean, everybody could collabs with people, I hate to use that term because that connotates something that connotates a one-way street.
Okay.
But in a collaboration, it's an even thing,
Leveraging your relationship.
My uncle used to say all the time, an even swap ain't no swindle. So, in that sense, if I'm giving you something and I'm coming to the table with something, and you come to the table with something, it's an even swap.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't no swindle. I'm not getting over on you. You're not getting over on me. That's what networking is. A lot of people, a lot of young people now, you have all of these quote unquote networking events. Networking to me is when you come to me and have a conversation with me that you have something of equal or greater value to be able to offer to me at this table.
Yes, sir.
And if you do have that, then there's something that we can collaborate on. We can make it happen. You can come to the table. It's like you joining us for debate night. You have something to bring to the table. You have an audience to bring to the table. We already have established things at the table. This can be the rising tide that floats this collective boat, or all of these boats. Come to the table with something. Don't come to the table looking like you're trying to take from everybody at the end of the day, because people that have been in it long enough can really tell that. And then too, at the end of the day, it's just learning how to work with people. Have people around you that are smarter than you. I try to make sure that I'm not the smartest person in the room whenever I go in. And if I look like I'm the smartest person in the room, I'll kind of fall back a little bit and let other people talk to see who else can shine. Because if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. And it's not going to really succeed for you, because I need to be around people who can check me and guide me and help me to evolve. Even at my age now, I still have a thirst for learning. I'm going to continue to learn. You are always evolving. Whether you're 70, 80 years old, you're always learning. And once you think you've gotten to the point where you know everything, then you might as well just check out at that point. You know what I'm saying? You might as well just go when you think you've gotten there. But I have a thirst for learning still at my age. I have a thirst for learning. So, getting around you, watching you, like I watch a lot. It's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I watch you. I watch Miranda. I watch what a whole lot of different people do around here. I watch what Ashley does. I watch what a lot of people do. And I learn from younger people who are now in the diaspora that I'm in, and they're doing things at a level, because there might be something that I have done that can collab with them on it. It might be something that I have done that needs to be evolved and changed in the way that I'm doing things and my mindset. So I watch and I learn, and I take bits and pieces from people who are being successful at what they're doing, and I try to take it with the knowledge and experience that I have. I have a lot of practical experience because I've lived a little more life than most people, that are doing what I'm doing around here. So I have these experiences, but that practical experience might go with something else that, is new and has evolved in a sense. So I need to be able to, take that and be able to change that into something else. So, I'm always looking and I'm always learning, and I want to continue to be able to do that. And I want to be blessed enough to be around people who are excelling at what they're doing, because that helps me at the end of the day.
I love it, man. In conclusion, I want to talk about the queen herself. When you refer to her as your bride, I think you're the only person that I know who refers to their wife as their bride. I've never heard that until you. So it's like, let's talk about Queen, man. What makes her, what made her so special, and still to this day, what made her the one? Does she make you better? I'm sure she does, from what I see.
Man, she makes me better. She completes me. She makes me better. She is my soulmate. We are equally yoked. I said when I
don't hear that too often these days.
When I mean, I really can't explain it because we fit so well. We
Yeah.
play off of each other so well. Um, what I'm good at, she learns from me, and what she's good at, I have no problem in acquiescing and learning from her.
Mhm.
We are the true essence of a team.
Mhm.
She's my teammate. She's my soulmate, my bride. She is the mother of my youngest kid, and she's a mother to all of my kids who have grown up in a shared village. All of my kids have three mothers in essence because, my son's mother, my oldest son's mother, my oldest daughter's mother, and my wife have all shared in raising all of these kids together, and it has been a beautiful experience seeing that. But she is absolutely amazing. She has made me a better man. She has made me a better father. She's made me a better person. And this is coming from someone who did not do well at being a father at first. I failed in so many aspects. I got it wrong in so many ways with my older kids. I wasn't mentally prepared. I wasn't spiritually prepared. I was not mature enough to do what was necessary to be a father. She helped me to learn. She helped me to grow. She helped me to evolve. Um, I was, you know, I was young and I was in the music business. You know what I'm saying? I slang it around pretty liberally when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? Anybody could really get a piece of it that wanted it at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was non-discriminate in how I did that. But a lot of young folk are really, to tell you at the end of the day. But I grew up in a household where my mother and my father were together until my mother passed. And they were together all those years. I came from a two-parent household, and I saw parents who were in the household together that shared in the duties and shared in raising the kids. I had that example. So I said, when I got married, I'm only intending to do this one time.
Yeah.
So in me doing it one time, I have to make sure that it's right, and the person that I do it with has to be the right person. I did not go into that marriage thinking that at any point, if this is not working for me, I can just get out of it. I think a lot of people go into their marriages these days because it's kind of a popular thing to do. For my bride and I, divorce is not on the table ever. Breaking up is not on the table. We're going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do what's necessary to figure it out. We're going to talk it out, and we're going to figure it out till we get it to the point where it's right. And we understand that marriage is work. We understand that relationships is work. And we understand that communication is a key thing. And luckily, we enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy each other so much that our communication works very well. She is a spiritual advisor and a counselor. She has clients that come to her every day, women who come to her that are in dark places in their lives. And I have seen the transformation that she has helped these women to make. I look at the testimonials. I look at the posts that they put up. I look at the emails that they put up that they send her for how she has affected their lives. And when, I'm telling you, Kamar, when I look at that, I'm in absolute awe of this woman. And being in awe of her and being able to, be with her every day and lay next to her every day, being able to hold her hand and watch TV every day, being able to raise this kid with her every day has been one of the greatest honors and joys of my entire life. And I never figured, there was a point in my life where I never figured that I would get married. Never figured that I would settle down with one woman. Never figured I would do any of this. And even people who were in school with me at Jackson State, my frat brothers, all these people, they are in awe of my wife because they all want to come and see this woman who got Brad to settle down. They want to come see this woman who got Brad to turn into this great husband and this great father because they knew me when, and I've evolved into something else. And that's what a partner can do for you. The right person can change your life and level you up in so many ways. The right person can make you a better father. It can make you a better man. It can make you a better husband. That's why it's very important. You don't take it lightly. You don't do it too fast. You be serious and intentional about finding a person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Because I tell people all the time, there's going to come a moment where your little Peter Whacker ain't going to stand at attention no more. And there's going to come a moment where your vajayjay ain't going to, get moist no more.
Shit though, yeah.
The vajayjay going to be as dry as a bottle of Johnson's baby powder. And your little Peter Whacker ain't going to stand at attention no more.
That's real, bro.
That's when the real shit is going to happen at that point.
Yeah.
Are you with the person that sustains you enough and, enough of your best friend? Are you with the person that you're willing to spend the rest of your life with, sitting in front of a TV, holding hands on the TV table, eating dinner, watching TV, are you with that person that you're going to be able to make it through the rest of that time after you can't stand at attention and after that JJ don't get moist anymore? Because if that's what you're going into it with, and that's what you have based everything on, and you've based it on looks, and you've based it on all the superficial things that you've based it on, what's going to happen when you turn 65 years old and y'all can't do any of that? So what's it going to be like being alone? Do you want to be alone at 70 years old? Do you want to be in there looking at TV by yourself at 70 years old?
Shit.
Do you want to be alone when you have to go to the hospital at 75, 80 years old? Is that what you want?
Yo.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I look at it. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
In most instances, we've only lived a quarter of how long we're going to live right now. I know, you have. I got more days behind me than I do in front of me. But at the end of the day, I know where I want to be in those formative years. You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, I want to be with the person who's going to be with me because she loves me and she wants to be with me, not because of what I can do for her, not because I can go into bed and bang it out every night, or not because any of the superficial stuff that a lot of people get into these relationships for. I want somebody that's going to be my best friend and my soulmate that I can hold hands with in front of that TV when I'm 75, 80 years old. And that, for me, was one of the major factors in getting married to my bride now and being married to the queen, because that's how I see my future. That's where I see it. That's where I'm looking forward to right now. And I'm looking forward to getting to those years because I know I'm with somebody that's going to be with me. My wife told me, we said it on our podcast, actually, the minute that I knew that my wife was for me, she told me, she was like, baby, I will live under a bridge in a cardboard box with you if it's necessary. I will go with you wherever you want to go. I will be with you in whatever aspect that it is. I will be with you for richer or for poor. It doesn't matter. We can be living on the street somewhere. I'm going to be with you. And we're going to have our little whatever it is, and we're going to figure it out, and get our way back to here. And when she told me that, I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. There's nothing else that I can really do at this point because, we all strive to get with that person, for better or for worse, sicker, poor, richer or poor, all of that stuff. A lot of times it's just vows and it's just words to people, but that's real shit. I saw my parents do it. My parents were together until my mother passed. That was it. And that was for better or for worse. They had some tough times. They had some rough times. When my mother passed, there was shit that I found out about that they was going through that we never knew.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? And when my father passed, finally, there was more stuff that was going on between them because me being the oldest, a lot of that shit fell on me. So I found out about a lot of stuff. I was like, wow. And you never knew any of this stuff was going on, but yet and still they stayed together and they made sure that me and my siblings were straight, that we had a roof over our head, we had food on our table, and they were always together. And he was by her side when she passed. And, and at that point, he lived the rest of his life until, he was no longer here. And that's the example that I came up with. And I don't want to do anything any different than that, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it one time. This is going to be it. This is the person I'm going to be married to. And we're going to be together until one of us is here no longer. And that, for me, was a real thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm able to continue to do what I do, because I'm with the right person and I got the right energy around me. And as long as you got the right energy and the right person around you, what you can do is limitless and it's boundless. When you with the wrong person, then that's going to be a problem. And that energy is going to pull you in different directions, and it's going to pull you outside of the path that God has intended for you. All of this is part of a plan.
Yes.
God wants you to be with the right person. He wants you to be in the right sense. He wants you on the right path, and not being with the right person can take you off of that path that he has you on. And once you get over here, you just kind of wandering at that point, because he's saying, look, in a lot of instances, people have overlooked that person. They passed by, didn't pay attention to them, dissed them, got rid of them, whatever the case is. And if you're not with that person, if you're not on that path, you're going to be over here. God has his way of making sure that he gets you back on this path. All of this that you do, you got to get back over here. And I got the person for you. They out here. God has a person for you out there. There's somebody for everybody that exists in the world. God has that person for you. You just got to know how to find them. You got to know when you have run into them, and you got to know how to make sure y'all make that connection, man. And I could talk forever about that, man.
Listen, I gotta shake your hand on that because that's very encouraging to hear another brother edify and testify, about his marriage, his wife, his bride. My next, you already answered it low key, but I was gonna ask you, why do you think it's important for Black men to consider marriage or at least get married? But I think you kind of
marriage is amazing. I recommend it to anybody if you are with the right person. If you're not in an abusive type of situation, marriage for me has been fantastic. And I recommend it for people that are ready for it, only if you are ready for it. All of the things that you hear on these podcasts these days, people that are not, Kamar, a lot of these super machismo, masculine, patriarchal type podcasts that you hear from these guys who, I don't think have had too much luck in dating themselves, and I think they're just mad at women. But you can pick, you can find the right woman, you can find the right bride. A lot of people's problem, Kamar, is, like I said, and this is crazy because I could go on for years and years and years and years talking about this, but a lot of our problem is that we just don't like the people that like us. At the end of the day,
yes.
If you like
that's valid.
If you like the people that like you, the problems that you're having and all of this stuff that you're spitting out on these podcasts, they all go away.
Yeah, man.
You won't talk about 50-50 dates and going to the Cheesecake Factory and all this shit that people talk about. When you pick the right person, those conversations are not going to happen.
McDonald's.
Listen, it's not going to even matter at that point. You know what I'm saying? So all that means is you're not picking the right person. You're not picking somebody who actually wants to be with you. You're picking somebody who wants to use you for whatever devices or whatever, fun you can show them at that particular time. Because a person that really is into you at the end of the day, they're going to want to look up in your face regardless of what it is that you're doing. We can be in McDonald's. We can be outside somewhere. We can be eating in the backyard. All I want to do is just look up in your face because I like you. And that's really at the end of the day. When they get to talking about you ain't take me here and you ain't take me to the Cheesecake Factory and you didn't spend as much on our date, she not feeling you.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? She just using you for a meal, and you need to figure that out, man. Like who like you. If you like who like you, all of the rest of that, man, will goddamn subside really at the end of the day. And not just in relationships, just period. Work with the people who want to work with you. Deal with the people who want to work with you. Be in the room with the people that want to be in the room with you, and stop fighting to get at tables that you were never meant to be at, or tables that you were meant to turn over in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? So, that's really it. And if you do that, your life will be much easier, and you'll have less stress, and you'll stop overthinking, because at the end of the day, you'll be in the room with love, and you'll feel that love, and you won't have to worry about what else is going to happen next, man. Really, that's all it is.
This was phenomenal, my brother. I appreciate you. I gotta shake your hand again.
I appreciate it, man.
Look, man, peace and blessings, love and respect. This right here, this brother, Brad Franklin, Kamikaze, legendary community organizer, artist, phenomenal husband and father.
I appreciate it, man.
You dig what I'm saying?
Those are the things that I strive to be more than anything else, man. I try to be an example as a husband and as a father. You know what I'm saying? More so than anything, man. I try. It's not a manual for it. I tell people all the time, it's not a handbook. It's not a manual.
Yeah.
I'm really doing this shit on the fly every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, raising kids is like literally I'm freestyling this shit every day. So you're really just doing the best that you can possibly do based upon what you learn from your folks and what you're doing out here in the world, man. So, blessings to you and your little one. And it's your first kid. So you're going to get all of that good new stuff, man. But you're going to be battle tested after this one. So when it happens again, the next time, you're going to be ready. You know what I'm saying? So I always say that, man. Kids are beautiful. Marriage is beautiful. All of that is beautiful, man. Love is beautiful. So, and you'll find it as you get older. The things that are not as important to you when you're younger will become important to you at that time. So that's what's important.
I receive all that, brother.
Yeah,
we got to do this again, man. So I want you to do what I need you to do before we get up out of here, my brother.
All right.
Look into this camera right here. Let them know where they can find you. All the good things.
So y'all can find me on social media. All right. On Facebook is Brad Franklin. or Brad Kamikaze Franklin. On Instagram, it's Mr. Franklin 601. On Twitter, it's at Kamikaze 601. I'm on TikTok, Brad Kamikaze Franklin. And please go check out, my YouTube page, Brad Kamikaze Franklin. That is where you can find the podcast that I do with my beautiful bride. It is According to Kaz and Queen, and that is on all social media platforms as well. And the podcast is on all streaming services. So make sure y'all go and check that out. Holla at me, inbox me. I talk to people all the time in my inbox, man. They might ask me questions or whatever, man. And I'm cool with all of that, man. I am learning to enjoy the conversations and enjoy people and just get it as it comes along to me, man. So y'all holler at me on any of those platforms. Please do that. Please keep supporting this brother and what it is that he's doing, man. It takes a lot to put these podcasts together. Yes. I can tell you that from personal experience. So, please continue to support him with the views, whatever he's asking for, money, whatever it is. Send it to him. You know what I'm saying? It's rough out here. You know what I'm saying? We try to make it happen, man. We got to feed these kids, brother.
Got to feed these babies.
Yeah.
Listen, my name is Kamikaze Kane, coming to you all the way live. Your favorite country cousin, your favorite Mississippian, and your best friend. Peace and blessings, love and respect. Brad Franklin, Kamikaze. Y'all just tapped into another great episode of Mental Shampoo. See y'all on the next trip.
Mental Shampoo is recorded and produced at KD Creative Arts Media Studio in Jackson, Mississippi. If you're interested in taking your video and audio quality to the next level, reach out to the people here at KD Creative Arts Media Studio. If you want to grow and monetize your podcast, this is the place to be. Visit kdcreativearts.com today.